Hello YouTube and welcome back to The Zone, where today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing another Down the Rabbit Hole video, where today, ladies and gentlemen, we're checking out something called Vaporwave. Guys, listen, I usually say that sometimes I have absolutely no idea, but no, trust me, I have absolutely zero intel on what the hell Vaporwave is, so I think it's better if we just sort of like got straight into it, shall we? So, if you guys want to check out the original video for yourselves, links will all be in the description down below. Let's begin. Vaporwave in 3, 2, 1, and...
Down the rabbit hole.
When browsing online, it's common to find commenters referencing and linking to videos containing a strange, enigmatic style of music, usually as a tongue-in-cheek joke. This music always has an undeniable 80s or 90s theme to it, but instead of being upbeat, the tracks are stretched and modified with heavy reverberation to give it a distant, atmospheric feeling.
It literally almost looks like a Rush album on acid.
The music is often paired with imagery depicting retro-style 3D computer graphics with VHS post-processing effects. New listeners will often note how pleasant yet eerie it is, and frequently solicit more. What these people usually don't expect to find is an enthusiastic community dedicated to an extremely recent form of music, which they have dubbed Vaporwave, and it's difficult to tell the degree of irony behind this enthusiasm. So the question is, what exactly is Vaporwave? The man popularly credited with starting the Vaporwave genre is an American named Daniel Lopatin, an electronic music artist with a focus on the noise subgenre. Noise music, as its name suggests, is an anti-art style that recontextualizes any sort of sound as music, usually without a beat or melodic structure. Lopatin spent the early 2000s creating noise music that was much more pleasant to listen to compared to his contemporaries' creations. The Village Voice described his music as, quote, serenity tinged with desolation. However, after facing...
As something a bit of a music critic myself, there is something very, very inspired. Like, this guy, Lopatin, was trying to come up with his own sharing his own philosophy on life. And you could find that sort of thing sprinkled possibly all out for his work, because I've done songs that are quote-unquote Vaporwave on my main channel before, but this is where it all started for me. Interesting. That's cool, man. It's really, really cool.
Little success in the scene, Lopatin decided to use his audio production abilities towards a different end. On July 19th, 2009, he uploaded 3 videos onto his YouTube channel under the name Sunset Corp. One of these videos, called Nobody Here in all undercase letters, managed to find minor success. In this video, he combined a heavily modified version of the song Lady in Red by Chris de Burgh with an old, cheap computer-generated animation.
More like Chris de Burgh.
The other 2 videos were very similar, with old, low-fidelity video on top of remixed old songs. Most who found these videos reacted positively, citing how relaxing yet unsettling it felt. The next year, Lopatin released an album under the pseudonym Chuck Person entitled Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1. The 3 songs that had appeared on his Sunset Corp YouTube channel were included, along with 12 other tracks sampling a wide variety of popular 80s and 90s artists, including Phil Collins, Janet and Michael Jackson, Toto, and Fleetwood Mac. The album, curiously, was only released on cassette tapes, but this didn't stop people from ripping the cassettes onto the internet. Lopatin's fascination with commercial media was obvious to the listeners. The album's name, Echo Jams, is spelled with 2 C's as a reference to the old Sega Mega Drive game Echo the Dolphin, and the album artwork is a collage of the game's cover art, including some of the typeface from the title. Lopatin's music relied heavily on genre awareness, drawing attention to itself by altering the audio to give it a retro quality as well as making it skip, as though there was some error in playback. Though it's difficult to garner any meaningful statistics about people's opinions, many listeners interpreted the sedating yet unnerving sound of the remixed pop songs to reflect the sedating and unnerving effects of popular media, as well as citing the innocent excitement for the future in a new digital age. The community that built around this music was quiet for over a year, but this changed with the release of 2 albums heavily inspired by the derivative works of Daniel Lopatin. On October 25, 2011, James Ferraro released the album Far Side Virtual. Building upon the self-aware method of Lopatin, he heavily utilized MIDI files that attempted to imitate real instruments but dip deep into the uncanny valley, making music that makes no attempt to hide its electronic origins. To add to this effect, he created the entire album in GarageBand, a generic audio editing suite built into Apple computers. Andy Battaglia of the National Online Magazine gave his feedback. Quote, "The concept for the album, inasmuch as a concept seems to exist, stems from Second Life and SimCity, virtual online worlds that play like fantasy video games while focusing on such mundane matters as the accumulation of status and goods." Ferraro intended the album to act as a reflection of the modern life. He said that, quote, "If you really want to understand Far Side, first off, listen to Debussy, and secondly, go into a frozen yogurt shop. Afterwards, go into an Apple store and just fool around, hang out in there. Afterwards, go to Starbucks and get a gift card. They have a book there on the history of Starbucks. Buy this book and go home. If you do all these things, you'll understand what Far Side Virtual is, because people kind of live in it already." The unsettling feeling of Lopatin's work resonated through Ferraro's Far Side Virtual as well, with music critics praising it for its criticism of, and fascination with, a wantonly corporate society. While James Ferraro popularized the style to the critics, another artist gave this still unnamed genre a stronger appeal on the internet. On December 9th of 2011, just over a month after the release of Far Side Virtual, an electronic artist named Ramona Xavier released the album Floral Shop under the pseudonym Macintosh Plus. This album returned to the remixed and derivative style of Lopatin, but in a way that was more accessible to listeners untrained by noise music, and it was quickly passed around online, even though it still lacked conventional appeal. Perhaps the most immediately odd feature was that all of the song names were in Japanese, even though Xavier is American and the album was comprised of remixes of Western songs and was released to a Western audience. However, when translated, one of Xavier's songs reads, "Chill Diving with Echo," a nod to Lopatin's 2010 release. The album cover specifically replicated the 90s PC aesthetic with striking yet soft colors, while the album itself conjured images of the 90s while remaining definitely distinct from it. Jonathan Dean, a critic for TinyMixtapes.com, remarks about Floral Shop that, quote, "It took pop music nearly a century to catch up to the idea of the found art object. Here, he refers to a style of art from the 1910s that took mundane objects and recontextualized them as art to challenge its definition. In the same way, many online critics observed the way that Xavier was taking old music and recontextualizing it into a later time period, so it could be understood differently as both a criticism and celebration of nostalgia, building on Ferraro's works. Inspired by the online success of Floral Shop, amateur producers began creating their own derivative music, mimicking the style of Lopatin and Xavier by taking tracks from the 80s and 90s, slowing them down, and adding effects to create a sense of space. The barrier to entry was low, and a large rush of work was released onto the internet, chiefly on the website Bandcamp. The visual art to accompany these songs was in keeping with the collage style of all three of the aforementioned Progenitor albums, appropriating real retro imagery rather than making any themselves. As songs were posted, the artists struggled to fit a name to the genre, and most simply invented something that sounded right. Though many names were dreamt up, there was one that eventually found general use: Vaporwave. This name is very close to the word vaporware, a term used in the electronics industry to describe hardware or software that is announced but never released. For many, it conjured images of empty 90s computer-generated landscapes. It was perfect. Artists began playing with the genre, making it difficult to pin a specific set of definitions to it. In general, however, the visual aesthetic stayed the same, and Macintosh Plus's use of the Japanese language to help obscure the songs became a trend. These artists would mostly attempt to remain anonymous as well, perhaps in part due to fear of litigation for sampling the music. For whatever reason, this anonymity became a central part of the theme of Vaporwave, and most artists worked under pseudonyms, which were often references to 90s computer culture. Vaporwave artist Wolfenstein OSX expressed his view and vision of Vaporwave in one of his videos, saying, quote, "It literally was a glorification of stealing other people's art and marketing it under something else with foreign languages." Another artist, under the name VHS Tape Rewinder, or VHS Tape Rewinder, explained that, quote, "Overall, I think the artists want to maintain a mystique and an anonymity that makes it more about the music and what you are presenting than about the person behind it." Though this counterculture ideal was certainly an element of the appeal, it also drew in some who were exhausted with the modern world and the brutal way it disseminates its media. Artist Eco Virtual is quoted as saying, "The whole appeal of Vaporwave is its use of remaining unknown, that in a world where nothing is private, it is refreshing to find something that feels like it was found in the dumpster of a thrift shop, where it does not matter where it came from or who made it, only that it takes you elsewhere, somewhere distant from reality." As more music and visuals were created, however, Vaporwave would go from a small curiosity to a wide internet phenomenon. As more people discovered the Vaporwave genre, new artists began making their own Vaporwave songs, many of them missing the irony that characterized the genre and simply copying the aesthetic and sound. This was assisted by the rising popularity of one of the songs from Floral Shop, called Lisa Franku 420/Gendai no Konpyu, which most people shortened to Lisa Frank 420. This song was mostly seen as an odd curiosity, but some people ended up enjoying the relaxing, droning melody of this rendition of Diana Ross's music. Most, however, seemed to see it as a joke, and those who did often labeled the people with more enthusiastic interest as pretentious and snobbish. Bandcamp was flooded with songs by artists who seemed more interested in creating low-effort works rather than exploring the genre. Some even teased the community with songs such as Vaporwave, more like Gaperwave, a song which overlaid Vaporwave with sounds from a gay pornographic film. Vaporwave became a meme, something to laugh about, prod, and tease. People started pasting the word aesthetic in monotype across online posts and YouTube comment sections in dismissal of Vaporwave as an obnoxious, artsy movement. people began to believe that Vaporwave was petering out, and the phrase "Vaporwave is dead" became a meme unto itself. Summarily smashed, the attention on the genre dissipated, as did the interest of many of its fans. Despite this dismal outlook, a significant number of people had discovered a newfound interest thanks to Vaporwave's spread online. The community that remained splintered into smaller groups who created their own subgenres, combining the sound of Vaporwave with other electronic styles. Some, ironically, began creating Vaporwave music inspired by the noise subgenre, while others fused it with electronic dance music and techno, creating a sound reminiscent of the aesthetics of cyberpunk. Some artists even abandoned the concept of using pop music as a base, preferring to emulate the feeling of Vaporwave, recontextualizing a style rather than an actual product. Experimental artists would usually attempt to create new names for their subgenres, but they always would tie back to the overarching term of Vaporwave, much in the way that black metal, death metal, power metal, and many other styles are still considered metal. Assisting this movement was a new independent music label created in 2014 under the name Dream Catalog, which exclusively released Vaporwave and its numerous subgenres. Here, many important names in the new Vaporwave movement were established, and as the catalog grew, so did the number of people either returning to the genre or finding it for the first time. Many consider this a coming-of-age period for the genre. Gianluca Pezzuti, in his article Test Tube Genre, explains that, quote, "The new test, which Vaporwave may be the first to pass, is surviving the big squeeze, the moment when an idea has its day in the digital sun. If an idea has the legs to stand under the weight of trending on Twitter, people will eventually grow bored and leave it alone. Only then can it truly grow and evolve, nurtured by a genuine fan base that think of it as more than a passing fad." He goes on to say that, "Vaporwave has undergone an evolution that normally takes a music scene decades to achieve. Vaporwave also saw minor influences in certain other media. For example, the game Oxenfree features a soundtrack that, while not purely Vaporwave, has strong influences from it. Andrew Rohrman, the man who wrote the game's soundtrack, said, quote, "The vibe was kind of that everything's running through a VHS player 20 times. Unseen by most of the world, Vaporwave grew and evolved, but at the time Pezzuti's article was written, there was no way for him to know that a second wave of sudden popularity would threaten the genre again."
Oh, I've heard about this.
Bart, I want you to promise me you'll pay attention in Sunday school. Bart? Bart? Bart!
Are you talking to me?
What's this? A personal stereo.
Just that's not a radio. That's a friggin' brick.
Were you going to listen to
Vaporwave
in Sunday school?
Maybe.
Can you believe this, Homer? Homer?
On February 29th, 2016, a YouTube user under the name Lucian Hughes posted a video entitled Sunday School, stylized with a familiar monotype font. The video chiefly consists of the song Teen Pregnancy by Black Banshee, paired with the episode of The Simpsons entitled Bart's Girlfriend, with VHS tearing and other effects added to give it a Vaporwave aesthetic. Though this wasn't the first ironically humorous video Lucian Hughes had done by pairing Vaporwave and The Simpsons, it was the first to receive widespread attention, and it suddenly became a viral success. As of writing, Sunday School has nearly 3.2 million views. Again, Vaporwave was pulled back into public internet attention, along with the reductionist attitude that had nearly smothered the genre entirely. This time, however, instead of reacting poorly, people were taken by the oddly powerful pairing of the music and video, perhaps aided by the introduction of a familiar family cartoon. Lucian was joined by a number of other YouTubers who mimicked his style, and these videos received appreciable attention as well. None of the music for these videos was original, but instead were all appropriated from already produced Vaporwave. In a sense, these videos were recontextualizing music that was already recontextualizing older music. The internet was quick to jokingly name this new style of video Simpson Wave. While some people teased the videos and the people who made them, there was a significant portion that defended them and their artistic significance. The majority of viewers, however, seemed more confused than anything else. Though these Simpson Wave videos similarly brought a new audience to view Vaporwave, the genre did not suffer the same sort of near-death experience as it did during its first rise to fame, and so far, it seems that this popularity hasn't affected the genre much at all so far, except that it has increased the audience. Though most internet denizens seem to see Vaporwave as a joke, some would say that it's part of the point of the genre, to be self-aware enough to recognize the ridiculousness of nostalgia and taking oneself too seriously. However, the new Vaporwave artists seem also to be interested in creating sonic landscapes and strong emotional responses from their listeners, especially as a critical response to modern technological life. What the genre will do next is anyone's guess, but after surviving its time in the spotlight, it seems that it will only continue stronger than ever. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want to help support this series and get your name in the credits, you can go to my Patreon page. I'll leave...
Okay, we'll just cut it there. So that, guys, was Vaporwave by Frederick. That's a friggin'... I've done a few stuff that I would probably consider like Vaporwave before, but maybe that's what I should do when I'm away. I should become like a full-time a Vaporwave sort of artist where I could just take anything out of the 80s and literally just make whatever the hell I want out of it. Maybe I could like do a thing for a music video, or maybe I could like take parts of like an 80s, like I think like wasn't Cheers like made in the 80s? Maybe I could take like parts of an episode of Cheers and then put them into in like a Vaporwave episode. This is, you see, ladies and gentlemen, just let your imagination run wild. You can create literally anything. And you know what? Now that we have a little bit of like a bit of history, a bit of knowledge, a bit of insight about what it is, who knows? Maybe there'll be not just a Simpsons Wave aspect, because I know where Simpsons Wave technically comes from. And to answer that, I'm going to have to get into a different video by a completely different YouTuber called Super Eyepatch Wolf. But the only thing I do want to say next, and this one's going to be pretty cool, I reckon. Who here would make Vaporwave music if they could? You know, hands up. Why not? Okay, you know what? Maybe I should. Maybe I could create something absolutely, something stylish and freaky as hell. Maybe I could, you know, maybe I not so much I could, but maybe I should. Because you know what? Those guys went out there, they did this stuff for Xavier Bouton. I reckon I could easily do that. Well, not that it's easy, because I'm pretty sure there's a little bit more technical aspects there, but there's got to be classes on maybe these sort of things, and who knows? Guys, it's happening again. I'm getting that smirk. I'm getting ideas in my head. I think I've got it, guys. I think I've just had it. So anyway, I hope you guys, with the smile still on my face, I hope you guys have enjoyed this reaction video to Vaporwave. Please make sure to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys thought of Vaporwave yourself, its origins, and goodness knows what the hell this guy is going to do to elevate the genre still further. We'll just have to wait and see. Please make sure to also like and subscribe so you get daily notifications when my videos come out. And I hope to see you guys again in the next reaction video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.